Okay, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. This is Dr. Garais. And again, today is the 4th. We were supposed to have laboratory today, but don't you worry, we'll catch up. But I thought it would be appropriate to have like an introductory video so you can at least see what we're going to be doing this week and what we were supposed to do today. So if you go into your laboratory course shell, how do you know it's your laboratory course shell? It says BIO112, but it has an L. And if you go into modules, and remember there are, let's put it in student view, so it'll look just like your stuff. So if you look at here, it has all the textbooks, all that stuff, and of course week 1 is unit 1. So you have group activities and you have individual activities. And the previous video that I put on the announcements, individual activities are due today, 3 p.m. And again, if you need an extension for whatever reason, please kindly email out to me because it's been a weird morning, but okay. We're going to do this replication, transcription, translation, and medical terminology. Maybe I'll also put a video on a primer for medical terminology, but I'd rather have that little mini lecture live. So let's go to Anatomage table. Let's say today was a normal day. They opened the doors. I had a key. You know, the whole world aligned for us. So I click on that. And then we go to the laboratory, which is next to the class. And it's this room right here. It's just down the hall. And here's the Anatomage table. So you go here, and every week you click here and you download the instructions. Now for my particular class, there's no submissions for Anatomage. The way you get credit is if you come in and you actually do the laboratory. And if you look at the laboratory here, there's instructions. So let's look at the first set of instructions. So, and excuse me if not the best video in the world. I didn't bring my gimbal today or any of my stuff. Because I thought we were going to have a normal lab. So it says, launch the cadavers tab with the application, right? And select the cadaver, select open, and change the position. So, and we'll be looking for a button like that. So what do? So you have the Anatomage table, and in order to turn it on, if you look at the side of the table right here, this button here is to turn it on. And it's a rocker switch, you only click it once to the left, that's it. But odds are you wouldn't have to do that because we already did that for you. Then when we come in here, the icon that you're looking for, now this thing here is a very expensive iPad, but why is it so expensive is because it's the software. Now I'm gonna turn off the lights because there's a considerable amount of glare. Okay. You can fast forward this. And the icon you're looking for is this icon, Table EDU 9.01. All right, and then I'm gonna take it, double click on it, and this should pop up. Again, this is gonna be a considerable loading time because what makes this thing so expensive is that they actually took 4 former human beings, and dead human beings are called cadavers, right? That's that right there, and we're gonna click on that. There are other things that we're gonna also be doing in our time together. Functional anatomy, and that is when you want like some sort of movement or some sort of video of these scanned parts. The next one is histology, logi, study of tissues. And that's for anything microscopic. So we're not going to go through all the rigmarole of microscopes and all that stuff because all of it's right here. And last but not least, the cadavers are a scan of an actual human being. That means they cleaned it up digitally, so it looks super, super neat, and I'll show you why in a minute. But this thing all the way down here is called prosection. Prosection is an actual 3-dimensional picture of an actual organ, and a specific organ, like a piece of a heart or a lung or whatnot. But the cadaver is the whole body. And the cadaver is a scan. But the prosection is a 3D photograph. Okay? So the 4 menus that you need to know is the cadavers, that's the bodies, the 4 bodies, functional anatomy, videos of movement, pregnancy, your eyeball, your heart, histology, anything microscopic, like red blood cells or bacteria, and last but not least, prosection, an actual 3D photograph, not a scan, but a 3D photograph of an actual organ, like a heart, lung, and whatnot. So those are your choices. And for today, the instructions stated that we should open up the cadavers. So I double click on that, and this will come up. And I will ask you which one you pick. So let's just pick a full body Asian male, right? You also have Asian female, Caucasian male, Caucasian female. So let's just pick this person there up front. So either double click on that or at the bottom, click open. Now, this is when it gets, this is gonna take a while. It takes about 90 seconds or so. And it'll give me time to start talking about something called your checkoffs. Your checkoffs happen at week 3 and week 5. The last day, which is your last lab, that's Saturday, that's in week 5, and it's on the calendar. And the Saturday on week 3, which is 2 weeks from now, where you're gonna have an oral examination. And the oral examination is going to be in this room, this laboratory right here, an Anatomage laboratory, and it'll be on this. And then I'll ask you to do things like, can you turn it on? Do you know what menu? And all these other things that we're gonna learn in laboratory. So, practice is key, and you can email me, you can come to class early, or heck, if you want to stay a little bit late, we can do that. And also, I've just been informed that I'm going to get access to the key card, so you want to stay crazy late here, Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday, or Monday and Wednesday, or come in early. And also, I'm here in the days, Thursdays and Fridays. And again, we could also do this via Teams. I could hook up my phone or a webcam to Teams, and then we could practice here as well, live. So we look at here, let me just pan out a little bit. This is an actual former human being. And part of our instructions, if you recall, a couple of minutes ago, was to find this icon, which is located in the lower left-hand side, and that's your orientation icon. Now, the orientation of this patient is supine. That means they're lying down, and the view that we're looking at is anterior. But if we want to look at my patient in the prone position with the his posterior showing, we go to this button. So we go to this button, I press on it, and then I press this thing on the head. Now, you'll see nothing really happened, so you do it again. Press on the orientation button, and press on the head again, and then now you will see we are now looking at our patient in the prone position and in, we're looking at the posterior. Now, the other view, we can put our patient, oopsies. We can put, if you see our patient, is the view is lateral, and we're looking at his right shoulder, right arm. So you're always looking at it at the perspective of your patient. So the view is right lateral because that's his right side, and we're looking at side lateral al pertaining to his side. Now, if I want to roll him over, I hit that button again, and now it's the other side. If I want to see him from the top of the head, which is cephalad, CEPHALAD, That means I want to look at the view from the top of his head. I go back to the orientation button from the top of his head, and now we can see this view. Now I want to see from the bottom of his feet up. I click on the same button, and now we are at the caudad view or caudal view. C-A-U-D-A-D, caudad, from the where? From the tail on up, or from the feet on up. And don't worry about the other two buttons, but it's those first three buttons. These three will give you those positions that we just talked about. Okay, let's look at now, how do I get him back to normal? Click on here and press the first one again, and then you'll have this. Now, another cool thing about this is that it is one big iPad. So if I want to shrink him, I can pinch. So I touch with 2 fingers, and then I bring my fingers closer, and then what happens? He will get smaller. I can do the exact opposite. Oh, my jacket's in the way. Make it bigger. Another thing I could do is I can rotate my body on my patient on an axis with 1 finger. So I put 1 finger here, hold it, and then I can just drag it along and turn my patient around. And you go in the direction of the axis that you want to spin it around. So if I want to spin him around this way, I can do it that way. If I want to spin him the other way, take my finger and then spin him on another axis. And again, you can always hit the orientation button here to get him back to normal. So let's get him back to normal, or supine position. It's hard to tape in. There you go. So now we're back. Another thing you could do is you can move him around, and that takes 2 fingers at the same time. So 2 fingers like this, I touch, and then I can move him anywhere I want. Okay, so to review, I can pinch, make him bigger and smaller. I could use 1 finger to move him around, and I use 1 finger to move him on his axis, and then 2 fingers if I want to physically move them around. And get it back to normal, back to the orientation button. There you go. My jacket is interfering. So if you look at that, that was the first part of what they wanted us to do. They wanted us to select the orientation button, change the position, and know the positions. So that could be a potential question. Next is the visibility button. They want us to turn off the integumentary or skin, right? And then to look at some muscles. Now, where is this button? This button is now here, lower part. So orientation to your left, right down here, this eyeball, that's your visibility. Click on that. And then now you see all the systems. Now, one thing you could do is, I can remove them all by clicking this check mark on the bottom, and then everything disappears. Or I can put them all back in. But what do they want us to do? They want us to only remove the skin. So see this integumentary, it's checked, that means it's visible. I'll make it invisible. And if you do that, and then you close out this box, you will now see you are left with muscles. Because of course I removed my skin, what's the next level? Muscles. And then this is where they want us to start playing around, and then in laboratory, you just click on something and it'll tell you what it is. This is your pectoralis majors, your pecs, this is your chest. Another example here, your deltoid. Here, your biceps brachii. But the next thing they want us to do is, because this is, of course, a teaching tool. Let's say I have my biceps brachii here. You'll notice on the lower right, a little color box will come up. So that means I can now color things. So I click on that box. Of course, after I selected the muscle I wanted, I find this box here. And in the upper right of this white box, you click on that, and then a whole bunch of colors come out. So I want to color this thing purple. And then you will see now the biceps brachii, right, will now be colored purple. And that's what we're gonna do in lab. We're just gonna round robin each group, one at a time, you know, mess with this, and then do some coloring. So that's how to do the color wheel. And that's this section here. So you don't have to write a brief statement of the medical history of the cadaver and whatnot, but the location of that information regarding the cadaver information is located within your modules, and I could show you that later. Next, we want to go to the home button, and then we want to we want to explore the other menus. So while we're here, one thing I could do is, and if you're in lab, you could take this, the home button, and then it'll bring you, and it's in the lower left. It looks like a little house. Then you could bring you here. Then you could minimize this so you could play around this and save it for later. Because if you exit out, you lose everything, and then you won't be able to access it quickly. And then you'd have to wait, you know, a while again. So I can minimize, right? And then I go back here, and they want us to go check out the other menus, which I mentioned. So we already had cadavers. Let's look at the functional anatomy. These are the ones where you could see like how your jaw moves or how your teeth are. Kinesiology is the study of movement. So it shows, you know, interactions between your muscles and bones. Pregnancy, a simulation of the fetus and all the interactions with it. Ocular, which is really cool. You get to do that in anatomy and physiology. Oh, I think it's this one at the very end. Neural pathways, it shows, you know, all the connections with all the nerves. And of course, cardiology, you'll see actual heart and it's moving. So let's look at cardiology as an example. I click on it, and on the lower right, or I can double click it, I open it. And you can fast forward this section if it takes a little bit too long. So the key thing with the functional anatomy is that there's animations, it's movement. And that's the beauty of the scanned portion of this thing, because you could actually show movements in what it would look like in real life. So for example, this heart, and it's super, super huge, right? It's gonna start moving. There you go. And example of your EKG, which is your electrocardiogram, also known as your ECG, same thing. Right? But that's the big thing about functional anatomy, AKA physiology. You're gonna look at movements. Now let's go to the menu again. Let's look at histology. Histology, that's easy. That's the one where it had microscopic stuff. So right here is a peripheral blood smear where we can see the majority of the blood is red blood cells. They look like Cheerios or little lifesavers. And then you have this purple thing, bigger thing right here, that's your white blood cell. And if you look real close right here, see those specks that looks like dirt? That's not dirt, that's a platelet or a blood clot cell. And then last but not least, let's go to prosection. And if you see here, prosection, and my favorite is the brain. If you look at the prosection, it's an actual 3D photograph. It's not a scan. The cadavers were dissected 3 millimeters at a time and then scanned at every level. But this is like the whole brain. Now the cool part is that you can still click on things. You can't dissect it. You can't do all the neat things that you can do on a scan, but this is a neat thing about prosection. I click on a part and they color it. And this is the different lobes, your occipital lobe, and your parietal lobe, corpus callosum, cingulate gyrus, right? A whole bunch of things, all right? And again, it's 3D. I can turn it around, see? And then I have orientation, put it back. Okay. All right, let's exit this application, and then I minimize the other one, and it brings me back to where I had before. And let's look at the other instructions, what we are to do in today's lab. And I think that's it. We looked at physiology and what it can do, right? That's the one with the heart. We looked at prosection as well. Histology, we also looked at a peripheral blood smear as well. So that's kind of like what we're doing in lab. All right, I hope to see you guys Monday evening. And as a quick reminder, Monday evening, 5:30, room 122, we start with the exam. Unit 1 exam is 50 items, multiple choice, and it covers chapters 1, 2, and 3. I have also put a practice quiz for chapter 2, but if you need a practice quiz for chapter 3, you could pretty much use your study guide as well. But if you really want one, shoot me an email and I'll go make one. All right, everyone, I hope you guys are enjoying your weekend like I'm enjoying my weekend. I will see you Monday. Have a good one.